Well, we certainly got a clear picture from authorities there on what exactly took place. So let's start there. We heard from them that it was around 11:20, in fact, in the morning, that this suspect was seen at a nearby gas station that was close to this First Baptist Church, again in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Now, the witnesses say that the suspect was dressed all in black and then approached the church, started firing outside, then went to the right side of the church and continued to fire. Then the gunman entered the church and continued to shoot inside of the church. Now, as the gunman left, what we heard from authorities is that a local resident confronted the gunman, took the rifle, and at that point is when they also identified, as you mentioned, that it was an assault rifle, and that's when this local resident was again in pursuit of the suspected gunman, who again had entered this First Baptist Church and had opened fire. Again, 26 people killed. The details on that as well, we heard from authorities that they said 23 people were killed inside of the church, 2 people were killed outside of the church, and one of the deceased died while in hospital. As we continue with the way that this all unfolded, it appears that law enforcement then were also in pursuit of the gunman, and when they found the gunman, he was deceased inside his vehicle, but they're not clear right now whether or not that was because of gunfire that may have been fired by this local resident who, again, police say took the assault rifle from the suspect, or whether or not this was a self-inflicted wound, whether or not the gunman took his own life. So those are the details of what exactly unfolded this morning in Sutherland Springs, Texas, inside of the First Baptist Church. 26 people dead. As you mentioned, the victims are between the age of 5 years old to 72 years old. In terms also of the number of injured, more than 20 is what is estimated right now. Next of kin still being notified, Michael.
And of course, what's problematic about this, and troubling about it rather, is the fact, again, the victims range in age from the very young as 5 to older to the age of 72. And also, according to local area reports, this church, when it has its weekly Sunday service, has about 50 congregants in that church. So right now we're looking at 46 being shot, either killed or injured at this moment in time. I want to talk as well about the shooter himself, not identified by name, described only as a white male in his 20s. Although we have to point out that there are media reports as to who the shooter is. We at CBC are not sharing that, though, because unless it's coming from officials, we're going to be very cautious about identifying a shooter, but certainly they have not done so while others have.
Exactly. There are some unconfirmed reports that are out there right now, as there have been during the course of the day surrounding this story. And again, that is the case when it comes to the identity of the gunman, again, that opened fire in this church. All we know right now from authorities is that it was a young white male in his 20s, and that, again, they are processing the vehicle and they will continue to do searches at the place of residence. You're looking at those images there, as they suggested that they did want to do a full processing because there were weapons also inside of that vehicle. So they wanted to make sure that it was safe. In terms of the identity, again, there are some U.S. media outlets that are going with a name. We do not have that confirmation from law enforcement at this stage, so we will not be going forward with that. Particularly, we heard from authorities there that they want to be cautious as they proceed because they want to be in contact with every family member who is going to be impacted by this, whether it is because of the injuries or whether or not is perhaps because they could be linked to the gunman himself. So this is the information we have right now. We're obviously continuing to track it, but that is all the information that law enforcement, that the governor as well wanted to provide at this stage in regards to the identity of that gunman, Michael.
You know, Arthur, I'm going to ask you to stay with us here because there's still more to cover on the story. This is an active investigation, but I do want to include here a statement that we got from the White House. Sarah Sanders, Huckabee Sanders, is right now traveling with the U.S. president, and she basically says the president has been briefed several times and is continuing to receive regular updates on the tragic shooting in Texas. Now, she also says the president spoke with Governor Abbott of Texas earlier this morning. She says, "We will keep you posted as we can share more details. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of the friends and families affected. May God comfort them all in this time of tragedy. So that is from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary. We also heard today from Justin Trudeau. Perhaps you can tell us a bit more of what the Prime Minister had to say about this, Arthi.
Yes, we're hearing a lot from a number of different world leaders, Justin Trudeau being one of them. So this is what the Prime Minister of Canada had to say. Canadians send their condolences to those affected by today's tragic church shooting in Texas. We wish a full recovery to the injured. In addition to that, of course, we have also seen a tweet from the U.S. President Donald Trump. And here is what he also had to say in his tweet. He said that he continues to monitor the situation, but may God be with the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas. The FBI and law enforcement are on the scene, and I am monitoring the situation from Japan. There were also several other tweets that went out again from Senator Ted Cruz, who's from Texas, also from Melania Trump, who tweeted out support. And of course, as we mentioned, there's been a written statement and now a public statement from the governor of Texas, from Greg Abbott as well. So certainly this is a situation they continue to monitor. And a big question mark here will be what was the motive and who was behind this, as well as who are all of these victims.